everyone, it's Becca from Becca Books and Bujo, and today we are doing a try chapter with a bunch of random books I found at the library. So just the other day, I was able to go to the library by myself, which is an amazing thing when you're a mom of 3, and I was perusing the new releases shelf. I found 5 books that caught my attention for some reason or another, and I checked them all out. I don't know what I was thinking because I have all of these reading plans already. I'm participating in middle grade March. I have some themed vlogs coming up that I need to read specific books for, but I got 5 books from the library. And so I'm going to try a chapter with all of you, try the first chapter of each of these books and see if there are any worth keeping and reading this month, or if they're just all gonna go back to the library. Let's chat through these 5 books. I'll tell you why I took them off the shelf, and then we'll get into the reading. So the first one we have is The Love Haters by Catherine Center. I have loved Catherine Center in the past. I really, really loved The Bodyguard. I really, really loved, now I can't remember what it's called. How terrible of me. Hello, Stranger. And I haven't read any of her backlist, but I've really loved her newer books. So The Love Haters, I just saw on the shelf and figured I should give it a try. I don't really know what this one's about, but we shall find out together. Then I had no idea that this author had a new book coming out. This is The Dark Maestro by Brendan Slocum. I read The Violin Conspiracy by this author and I loved it. 5 stars, one of my favorites from 2 years ago, I believe. This one, I had no clue. Like I said, no clue it was out. And this one's about a cellist, a famous cellist, and then something happens to the family and they have to go into witness protection, so he can't play his cello anymore. Let's see what happens in the first chapter. I also picked up Any Trope But You by Victoria Levine. I saw Kayla from Books and Lala read this, and I thought it looked like a fun winter romance. We have a snowstorm coming up in Minnesota tomorrow, so maybe it could be a good time to read this one. I saw The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. I'd seen this one making the rounds. Julie Clark is a pretty well-known thriller author as of late, and I think this is about a daughter writing for her dad? I don't know. We'll see what the first chapter is like. And then I saw Total Dreamboat by Caitlin Doyle, which, does this scream Titanic to you? It sure screams Titanic to me. Just the opposite, right? It's not Rose and Jack, it's Rose and Jack. Anyway, I love the Titanic. If you've been a viewer of my channel for a while, I have done 2 Titanic vlogs. Maybe one is coming up soon at the beginning of April. And this just, looks funny. And we'll see. We'll see if it piques my interest with the first chapter. So let's get started. I think I'm going to go romance, thriller, romance, thriller, romance, because those are the kind of books we got here. So might as well just start with the one that's in my hand. Let's read the first chapter of Total Dreamboat. Okay, I ended up reading the first 2 chapters of Total Dreamboat because the first chapter was 3 pages and the second chapter was like 4 pages. So I needed to read a little bit more to get an idea of what was going on. So in our first chapter, we are reading from Hope's perspective. Hope is a woman who seems to be down on her luck. She is drinking in a bar in the Bahamas. Yeah, Nassau, Bahamas. And she is wallowing about a breakup, it sounds like. We don't really know exactly what's going on, but we know that she is on like a day trip from a cruise. She's drinking in this bar and she doesn't want to return to the cruise ship because that's where he is, the man that she's crying over. So she's going to return to the cruise ship and realizes that she's probably going to be late. She tries to get a taxi to get back to the cruise ship. That's what happens in her 3 pages. And then in the second chapter, we are following from Felix's perspective. Felix is the man that she is crying over, I presume. He is also on a day trip from the cruise. He is on a sea-doo, or I call it a jet ski, but his jet ski stalls out and he's being towed back to the rental company that he got the ski-doo from. He also realizes the time and that he's going to be late for the boat. He pulls up to the port, or he must walk up to the port, I don't know, and sees that his cruise ship is sailing away. He learns that he needs to meet the cruise ship at the next port of call, and that is in France. Or wait, they're in the Bahamas? Oh, St. Martin. I understand. It's like technically France, so he needs his passport. Well, his passport's on the boat, so he's going to have to go through a whole rigmarole to try to get to St. Martin. The concierge or whatever is like, I'd be happy to put you in touch with the embassy. Good luck. He is turning around when he hears a sharp intake of breath, and he realizes that Hope is there, and Hope realizes that he is there. I did read the inside front cover, and it sounds like they get stuck in the Bahamas trying to get back to the boat together. And I also just looked slightly ahead, and we are going to jump back in time 6 days ago. So I assume they fell in love or started some sort of relationship on the cruise ship, and then something happened. They broke up, even though they'd been together for 5 days, and they were trying to get over it on their little day trips, and now are going to be stuck together, and they'll probably work through things. I don't know. I thought it was cute. I think it'll be fun, and I might want to continue reading this one. So I am going to keep it for now, at least not return it back to the library. So good start to this chapter. I don't know. Maybe I'm just in the romance mood. I haven't read a lot of romance recently, so this one feels like it could be a winner for now. Maybe I will include it in the Titanic vlog. Do you think that just because the picture on the front reminds me of Titanic is enough to include it in the Titanic vlog? Let me know in the comments. Okay, next up, we are going to try The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. See you back here after one chapter. Let's see how long this chapter is. Oh, there's an author's note at the beginning, and then there's a foreword, like a 4-page foreword, and then chapter 1 is 8 pages. So we'll read that little bit, and we'll be back to chat. Okay, I read the foreword and first chapter of Ghostwriter. We are following a woman named Olivia. Is that right? Yep, Olivia. And she is a ghostwriter. She writes for famous people, writes their memoirs. And she's kind of found herself in a bit of a pickle because she calls a fellow ghostwriter a misogynist on stage at a pretty prominent event, and gets sued by him for defamation. And so now she can't get jobs because she got in trouble and is also out on a bunch of money because she has to pay this guy for the defamation suit. So she is approached by her publicist, or not her publicist, her editor, publisher, whoever, that she got a job offer, and it is to write a book for this prolific horror writer who happens to be her father. Well, we found out in the foreword that her father was always thought to have killed his brother and sister, and that's why he became this horror author, because he has all this trauma associated with the murder of his brother and sister. She Olivia wanted to dissociate from her father, so she left when she was like 14 years old and hadn't seen him for 30 years. Well, now she's in her mid-40s, has no money, is about to lose her house, and so she takes the offer. She is going to write for her father. Nobody knows that he's her father, but she does. And so she is going to go to Ojai and write for him. She lives in LA. So yeah, this one's interesting. I don't know. First of all, look at this. Sprayed edges on a library copy? That seems weird. I'm intrigued. Definitely intrigued. She is confused as to why he wants her, but he and his team want her and only her. She doesn't write fiction, so there's obviously a different ploy than just being the ghostwriter for his next book. He could easily write his own book, but he wants to get her back in his life, I assume. And I'm sure throughout the process, she's going to find out what happened all those years ago to his brother and sister. I'm intrigued. I don't know if I'm intrigued enough to like drop everything and read this month, but eventually I'd like to read it. I realized I have another Julie Clark as I was flipping through those first few pages. I have The Last Flight by this author on my TBR over there. Didn't even put two and two together that she wrote that book, but I don't know. It's interesting. And I also had a patron just tell me on Sprints that I would probably like it. So I might give it a shot. Maybe we're 2 for 2 on this try chapter video. Next up, we've got Any Trope But You. Another romance. Looks a little wintry. No clue what it's about. But we're going to try the first chapter. Let's see how many pages we've got. Oh, a bit longer. Long chapters don't bode well for me, but it's 17 pages. So let's see what we think. Okie dokie, I completed the first chapter, and this is interesting. We are following a woman named Margot. She is a famous romance author. She's known for her perfect happily ever afters. Well, she doesn't believe in happily ever afters. In fact, she has a document that's called her happily never after document, where she has rewritten all of her famous romance books with a bad ending instead of the happily ever after. Well, she is on a podcast when that happily never after document is released to the public. It's leaked, and her reputation is completely gone. Dragged through the mud. Is that a phrase? I don't know. So the advance on her next book is gone. She is not able to write romance anymore. Her sister wants to help her out by sending her to Alaska to an isolated log cabin resort so that she can figure out who she is without writing romance. She wants to possibly write a murder mystery. So that's where we left off. She is heading off to Alaska. I'm just looking now. That first chapter said Margot at the beginning of chapter 1. At the beginning of chapter 2, it also says Margot, but I assume we are going to get, chapter 8 says Forrest. We are going to get a different perspective, a male's perspective, and probably the male that she's going to have a happily ever after with. Maybe. I don't know. I'm liking the writing. I feel like it's funny and witty, and on the podcast interview that she's on, she just puts a shirt on and then doesn't wear any pants. She's wearing granny panties. And because the interview didn't go as planned, she stands up and everybody sees that she's wearing underwear. I thought that was funny because I feel like people did that during the pandemic. Anyway, I like this one. I want to continue all of these books that I'm reading. What are we going to do? Okay, so that could be another win. Now we're moving on to the other thriller, or I think it's more mystery. Seems a little bit slower paced, where we are reading The Dark Maestro. The first chapter is about 17 pages. There is also a prologue, so We will read the first few pages and see what I think. "18 pages into the Dark Maestro, and I really got swept into this story. So, in the prologue, we are following our main character. Why can't I remember his name now? That's embarrassing. Curtis. He is playing a cello sonata. I don't know. He's playing with a symphony. I'm not sure if it's a sonata or a what's the other word? Oh my gosh. It's late on a Friday and it's been a long week. Anyway, he's playing with a symphony. He's the soloist, and he plays like the best he's ever played in his life. And actually, the director of the symphony goes up to him and says, "I think this is going to go down in history as one of the best performances of the Kabalevsky ever." And then said that the composer would be proud. So he's coming off on this great high. He gets back to his dressing room, and there is a man and a woman. They're in suits, and they say, "We're from the FBI. You need to come with us right now." And he's like, "No, I have an after party. I have a reception I got to go to. I can't go with you right now." And they're like, "Yep, you do. Let's go. This is about your dad." And then the prologue is done. Chapter 1 jumps back to when Curtis is 5 years old, and he is sent home with a note from kindergarten one day saying that this association is giving his kindergarten class instruments. He needs a signature from his dad to say he can receive an instrument, and he asks for a cello. He gets the cello and practices it nonstop. He loves his cello. He wants to sleep with his cello in his bed. It's really, really sweet. Then that's basically it. It does end a little bit differently, not about his love for cello, but instead his love for comic books. His dad's girlfriend brings him to a comic book shop, and he's allowed to pick 3 comic books, and his dad's girlfriend reads those 3 comic books to him before bed that night, and he had forgotten to practice Beethoven's second cello sonata like he was supposed to. So that's how the chapter ends, and I'm very, very intrigued. And like I said, I just was swept up in the writing. It's really, really good. And The Violin Conspiracy by this author was one of my favorite books of 2024. I just love how Slocum writes about music, and then there's also this mystery usually entwined in his books. At least there was in The Violin Conspiracy. I'm not sure about his other one, The Symphony of Secrets, but I assume so with that kind of a title. And now I gotta know, why is Curtis taken by the FBI like so quickly like that? What has his father done that needs to put them in witness protection? That's in the front cover, by the way. But I also am just loving learning about how his love started for classical music and the cello. So this one's going to be a winner too. Wowee. Okay, the last book of this tri-chapter video is The Love Haters, and I just want to see how many pages we have. Looks like 12. Okay, I am going to try to do it tonight. I was thinking I might need to be done with reading, but 12 pages is not that much. And if we can get this video done, that would be awesome. So I'm going to read these 12 pages, and we'll chat with you once I've finished. I did it. That was a quick 12 pages and a very interesting 12 pages too. So we are following our main female character, Katie. She makes videos and works at a company that makes like commercials for companies, other companies. I'm saying companies a lot. Company. Anyway, she's approached by her supervisor, Cole, and is asked to create a promotional video for the Coast Guard. She will be flying to Florida, I think, and making a video about this one guy who does rescue missions off of helicopters into the water. Well, she is focusing on this one gentleman because he saved Jennifer Aniston's dog and that'll be good press for the Coast Guard or something. Anyway, she says she will do it. She agrees to it because the company is downsizing and she thinks she will get fired, likely. So she wants to take the job and do well. Anyway, we find out that the person who takes the job needs to be able to swim because there's a possibility that the helicopter could go down in the rescue and they need to swim if the helicopter crashes in the waves. And she doesn't know how to swim, but she really, really needs this job. So she takes it anyway. We also find out that her supervisor, Cole, is the brother of the person that she's following. And he doesn't want to take the job because it's his brother. But his brother requested him to do the promo and would only do it if his brother did it. So I don't know how that all is going to play out. But should be interesting. I don't know. I like Catherine Center's writing. And I feel like it really just sucked me in. And I want to know what's going to happen, especially with the fact that she doesn't know how to swim. And that's a big lie. And probably going to be interesting moving forward. So this one's good. Probably not as good as the others. So let's do a quick little recap here. I'm going to put them in the order that I like them and possibly the order that I would read them if I kept them. So I think it might be like this. The Dark Maestro in my top spot, Any Trope But You in spot number 2, Total Dreamboat next, then the Ghostwriter, then the Love Haters. And really nothing against like these bottom two. I found them very interesting and a good enough first chapter. So I think I would like them all, honestly. I did a good job picking books out of the library. So let me know if you have read any of these 5 books that I'm dropping all over and if you think I should continue with them. I hope I can make time to continue with them this month. But if there's one of these 5 that you would suggest I continue reading, which one should it be? Let me know in the comments. As always, it would be great to have some bookish conversation with you there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.